Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into my presentation on historical, legal, and programmatic frameworks timeline. Starting with before the 20th century. In 1839, Ohio German-English cases were very prevalent. During an increase of German migration to the United States, major cities like Cincinnati were demanding accessibility to German public schooling. The courts upheld inclusion of German education in public schools in Ohio, which led to bilingual education becoming more common. Ohio passed legislation authorizing German instruction in the classroom. This also then later led to Louisiana's bilingual education programming in 1847. They followed Ohio State in authorizing bilingual education as requested by parents for French-speaking students primarily. Later in 1889, the Bennett Law required all public education to be taught exclusively in English. At this time, many German Catholic and Lutheran communities fought for its repeal, which later took place in 1891. This left an impact showing other states that bilingual education was a necessary right in public education. Jumping into the 20th century, we have in 1923 the Meyer versus Nebraska case. In 1919, Nebraska passed a law called the Simmon Act, requiring education to be taught in the English language only. Meyer argued this law to be a violation of the 14th Amendment, which grants parents the right to dictate their child's upbringing as they see fit. This case resulted in the repeal of the Simmon Act by the U.S. Supreme Court, and the lasting impact of this was the protection of bilingual education as a constitutional right. In 1923, there was a case for Bartels versus Iowa. It was actually on the same day as the Meyer versus Nebraska case, resulting in a repeal of the Simmon Act, and the U.S. Supreme Court removed language restrictions in the state of Iowa as well, again citing the violation of the 14th Amendment. In 1927, Farrington versus Tokushige. In 1927, Hawaii heavily restricted Asian languages in education through strict rules and fees in schools, specifically related to Chinese and Korean languages. Hawaii required a permit to teach foreign languages in schools at the time. In this case, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled this to be a violation of, again, that 14th Amendment and removed all restrictions. This extended the protection from the Meyers and Nebraska to foreign languages beyond European countries, stretching into Asian countries and Indian countries as well. In 1974, Lau versus Nichols. This case took place in California after many Chinese-speaking students were placed into mainstream classrooms without language support. The U.S. Supreme Court decided that this was a violation of Title VI and that the language programs for minorities were not high enough quality to ensure equal opportunity education. This became a major turning point in introducing ESL classes nationwide. In 1981, Castaneda versus Pickard. This case took place in Texas when a Hispanic family claimed that their children were not getting equal opportunity education due to a lack of bilingual programs and curriculum, based on radically and ethnically discriminatory criteria, and resulted in impermissible classroom segregation. This resulted in the Castaneda test requiring bilingual programs to have sound educational theory, adequate resources and staff, and proven to overcome language barriers in order to be authorized to be instated as a bilingual educational course curriculum. In 1982, the Plyer versus Doe case. In this case, Texas attempted to deny illegal immigrants access to free public education. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that this was unconstitutional in violation of the 14th Amendment. For more than 30 years, Plyer has ensured equal access to education for children regardless of their status. By this, it means that it doesn't matter if you are a legal or illegal citizen in the United States. All students have the right to public free education. In 2003, Pasmino versus California Board of Education. This case argued that California State was racially discriminatory, excluding alternative bilingual education programs from participation in California's $133 million Reading First federal grant program, which was funded by the No Child Left Behind Act and resulted in California State adjusting their qualification criteria. This meant that any student, regardless of their race or language, could be in the Reading First program, or they had to change how they were funding it so that it fit the No Child Left Behind Act. Later in 2006, the United States versus State of Texas case. This case is longstanding and still experiencing issues today regarding MALDEF, challenging the state of Texas for not assisting English language learners in overcoming language barriers that interfered with equal education opportunities. This case resulted in Texas passing a law to expand K-6 bilingual education programs, and the state revised its language programs as a whole. And then in 2016, ESA versus the School District of Lancaster. In Pennsylvania, a group of refugee students were denied enrollment to the Lancaster School District. They were then assigned to the Phoenix Academy Credit Recovery Program and were not provided with proper English language learner educational opportunities. They were also discriminated against by age, saying that they were too old to go into school and that they should just get a job instead. It was later determined that the district violated the Federal Civil Rights Act of the students by placing them in an inferior program, and were forced to stop diverting students to alternate programs and instead offer adequate English learning opportunities. Thank you so much.